Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you all. Can everyone see okay?
Hello.
You can hear okay?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Lovely. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. So good evening. I'll just introduce myself. My name's David. I'm from the outreach team at TAU International. We work with all the programs here at TAU in helping them in outreach and speaking of potential students. We have Corey here, the program director of Conflict Resolution. So we're delighted to have you all here with us tonight. So without further ado, I'll just jump into my presentation. I'll speak for about no more than 10 minutes maximum, just going over TAU, a bit about TAU International, who we are, what we do, an overview of student life here, and then Corey will then jump in and talk a bit about the program and answer any questions that you have. So let me just share my screen. Cool. Can you all see?
Yep.
Oh, just to let you all know, we are recording this. We're just going to, what we do is afterwards, we pop it on our private YouTube channel, and we sometimes send it out to prospective students throughout the year as well, just to let you guys know. Before we begin, you're welcome to, there's a Q&A session at the end as well. I know some of you submitted questions before at the registration point, which we have a list of here as well. But by all means, you can ask questions in the chat or the Q&A function. And we're quite an intimate group as well, so I think you're welcome to just ask out loud as well during the Q&A sessions at the end as well. We're not a huge group. So welcome, like I said, I'm David, I'm from TAU International. I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted to have Corey here. I'm delighted to have all of you taking your time out to come in and to meet with us. I think most of you know Corey, or you've at least perhaps emailed or had a conversation with him about the program. Okay, so just to give you a sort of bird's eye view about Tel Aviv University, we are the #1 institution in Israel, the first choice for Israeli students. We have about 30,000 total students every year, and of that, 2,000 are international from all over the world. And you know, when you come to us, you do get the best of both worlds. You meet other international students from all over the world, but at the same time, you can also meet other Israelis and mix with Israelis on campus and in Israel as well. We have 9 faculties, 125 schools and departments, students from 100 countries. We are one of the top 100 innovation universities in the world, and we're very proud of that. It's a diverse campus. If you're on campus, you'll hear quite a lot of different languages, in addition to Hebrew and English, which are the main ones. Just a little bit about successful alumni. If you do come and decide to enroll with us, you'll join an illustrious group of successful and well-known alumni worldwide. I won't go into all of them. Yotam Ottolenghi, if any of you are foodies, he's perhaps more well-known in the UK than Israel. He's a very famous chef and author. He's got a couple of restaurants in London that I've been to that are very, very good. Although I think the shakshuka in Israel is a little bit better. Adi, the general manager for Facebook. We have Dr. Danny Gold, who invented the Iron Dome, that incredible piece of technology that keeps us all safe. Professor Ronit, she developed a new way to treat melanoma in the treatment of cancer. Uri Levine, he's one of the co-founders of Waze, which I think in Israel 99% of people use to get about. And he has a BA in economics from us. and he subsequently sold Waze to Google, I think, in 2013 for over $1 billion. So not a bad payday. I won't go into all of these points, but just to let you know that we work very close with the industry through the Entrepreneurship Centre, which is staffed by professionals. We have the annual Cyber Week and the Artificial Intelligence Week. They've been done virtually this year and last year because of COVID, but before that, that was all held on campus throughout an entire week. We had over 9,000 attendees on campus from 80 countries during that week. So it's a great event that's happening on campus. We had Benjamin Netanyahu came to speak in 2019, I think it was. So it's a great event. If there's anything I want you to take away from today from me, it's this. The Student Life team they're amazing. They're our madrachim. If you know Hebrew, madrich and madrachim means guide, counselor or guide. And most of them are Israeli. They're all Israeli. They're all doing their degrees, either first degree or a master's degree. They're all post-army service. And they are really there from the moment you land, they're there. From the arrival at the dorms, through to orientation, to events and trips and social gatherings. They're on campus, they live on campus with you, and they're available for support 24/7. They help out in everything. They do lots of events. Over the past year, they've done amazing events on Zoom with people in quarantine, Eurovision sing-alongs. They've had comedians come along and give stand-up shows to them. Zoom events about the elections and the political situation in Israel. Pizza nights, before COVID, and also even now, they're starting to get back into doing events. They'll take you up and down the country, to the north, to the south, stay overnight, city tours in Tel Aviv. They really are, if there's one thing I want you to take away from you, it's the Student Life team and the service that they give. And I mean, they're wonderful, and they're always available. There's always somebody on the phone. There's also one person in the office here on campus every single day. And that's them at the bottom right-hand side. Accommodation, we have, I don't know if any of you have been to Israel or you know much about Tel Aviv University, but we do have dorms. We have 2 dorms. We have the Einstein dorms and the Broshim dorms. And the picture you'll see on the left, these are all from the Broshim dorms, which is our new dorms that was built and is still being built. Just a 10-minute walk from campus. I think most master students tend to get put into the Broshim dorms, but for next year we are giving people, before that we sort of put students into, we tended to put the undergraduates in Einstein and the graduates in Broshim, and we're giving students the chance this year to decide which ones they would like to go into. We don't offer meal plans, but all of the dorms have kitchenettes. You can cook food. Israel is a great food destination. There's lots of amazing places you can buy fresh food, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, and the cuisine here is amazing. So you can also cook up yourself. So no meal plans. They include all bills, so electricity, water, arnona, which is, we call it council tax. I think if you're from the States, you call it city tax or something like that. And it also includes Wi-Fi as well. Just to end, just to say, we offer over 60 programs here in English. So you will join a community of, like I said, 2,000 international students from all over the world. In addition to the 15+ master's programs, we also offer study abroad, short-term, summer programs we have coming up in the summer. We also have 3 new online programs that we're launching this summer. One in COVID, one in climate change. 2 in COVID and 1 in climate change. Plus we have 20+ doctoral programs. So, we really are a sort of city, a mini university in a bigger university here as well. So thank you for listening to me. I hope that was interesting. I hope you I'll stick around. I'll be here to answer any questions related to anything I've spoken about as well. But yeah, so thank you very much. I'll hand over to Corey now.
Hold on, got to unmute. Okay, hi everybody. A lot of you I know because I recognize your names. I am the director of the M.A. in Conflict Resolution and Mediation, for those who don't know me. You know what, I'm gonna do my presentation anyways very, very quickly for the few people here whose names I don't recognize, because just in case, to make sure they're in the right room and they know what conflict resolution is all about. Okay, you guys can see this, correct? Okay, great. So this is a master's in conflict resolution and mediation. What does that mean? It's a year-long program starting in October, ending in, classes end at the end of August, but there's a small cumulative assignment after that. So you officially finish at the end of September, but you're basically done in August. Taught in English on understanding why there are conflicts around the world from a theoretical, practical, and point of view. In the first semester, you have a course in the major subjects that look at conflict resolution, why there are conflicts. So that would be political science, social psychology, international law, and the next is culture. We decided because there's so many cultures around the world, that why not highlight the cultures of Israel, which is Islam and Judaism. Those are the two main cultures between Israelis and Palestinians. And it helps you understand a lot about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. With that, I might as well go into that as well. The focus of the program is not about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but it does come up all the time because geeks like me who find this the most fascinating conflict, fascinating yet safe conflict in the world, because it has every aspect of conflict that I can think of woven into this conflict. This is a great place to understand other conflicts. So if you come from Korea or China or South America or the Balkans, it doesn't matter. A lot of the issues that exist between Israelis and Palestinians or in the Middle East are very similar to other conflicts as well. They might take on a slightly different culture and different reasons, and there's certain emphasis on specific aspects, but a lot of it is very, very similar. So in the first semester, you have a course in each of those. In the second and third semester are a series of electives that you choose, which are a little bit more multidisciplinary. So they mix the political, sociological, psychological, legal, cultural, economic, different ways. And the idea is to get a really strong sense of why there are conflicts around the world and how do you solve conflicts. And how do you solve conflicts? That's your skills building of learning how to negotiate and mediate. And even if you never plan to be a mediator or a negotiator, those are excellent skills to have because they help you negotiate your salary. They help you negotiate between friends. They help you negotiate family issues, because conflicts are conflicts. And it doesn't, in some levels, a lot of the same issues that go on between the two sides of Korea happen in the workplace in some measure. So learning how to mediate, whether it's between two people, you have a workplace issue, or between two countries, Egypt and Israel, for example, that's one of the case studies that they do in the mediation workshop, will really help you understand conflicts in general. Anything else I can say? Our lecturers, I want to point out, are mainly people who work in the field. Some of them are university professors, but the majority, 80%, I'd say, work in the field and come and teach a course for us. They all have, pretty much all have PhDs, but they've been working in the field for many years in something related to conflict resolution. I spoke to that in my last slide. And I just spoke to that now. I was a rush through it. Okay, so a common question is, where do people work after? So it's interesting that people come to us from a variety of disciplines. We get the major disciplines, I would say, are sociology and psychology and political science or international relations, something in that aspect. in those subjects. I mean, we get people from business though, from the arts, from high tech, and just as varied the interests or the education of our students who come in, they go on to do a variety of jobs in the field. And I would say I ranked them more or less in from what I can see, because I try to keep track of where people are for the last 11 years the program has existed, where people work. And it's often in government. And by government, I mean federal, state, local. It could be, or something similar to government, for example, the European Union, in some way, whether it's in the parliament or in a civil servant. The next group would be the NGO and the IGO sector. That's very, very common, particularly those who stay in Israel. Working with refugee populations or international development. We have a few people who work in the UN, Red Cross, Save the Children, organizations like that. Then there are those who, oh, I can admit someone, sorry, I'm going to admit somebody. Then there are people who work in think tanks and consulting. And that's often grouped within the NGO or the profit or government sector, because a lot of organizations aren't strictly NGOs. They're often consulting as well. They often have a think tank element to them. So we have, for example, just speaking, people who came to mind, in the US, past students who work for insurance companies doing assessments on travel. Where is it dangerous to travel to? Where is it not? Where do you have, how much do you charge for insurance if somebody is going to one of these places? That sort of thing. And then a lot of people go on to use this program in addition to a different degree, another MA, a law school, or a PhD. It's very, very common. We have every year a couple of either people who went through law school already or are going into law school, very common. And what we've been told from those who are in law school is that law school is very dry, and this creates a program allows for a lot of context in how to use or how to apply law. We've had people from in law school from Europe, India, US, Canada, and we've heard very similar feedback from all of them. Okay, these are more details, but we'll talk about that. I am now going to answer your questions. Hold on, how do I unshare? Let me do that. Does anyone have any questions up to now? Because I'm going to go through the questions that I received so far to start it off if you want. It's up to you. No, nobody? Okay, okay. So we were asked, when we asked what you would like, what topics or questions would you like answered? So I'm going to read those. So what organizations tend to support conflict resolution, and do most people who graduate with this degree work in teams? I went through the type of organizations that people tend to work for. By the way, all this information is on our website. If you go onto our website, which I'll send out in a minute, you'll find a lot of this information already there on our website, so you don't have to remember. You can consult on the website. But we have noticed that, because I check in a lot with graduates, what courses most impacted them, what skills they tend to still use years later, because we're always trying to improve the program. And one of the things that they tell me is that when they're looking for a job, conflict resolution really stands out on a resume. It sets people apart for a lot of jobs which are not necessarily a conflict resolution specific job, but they're looking, an organization or government position is looking for skills that might be helpful, that conflict resolution would teach you. For example, mediation, negotiations. That's not something that you would learn in most other programs. So we've heard that feedback a lot. I wish I had a way to prove it scientifically that that's the case, but I haven't yet. So if anyone has ideas, I'm happy to listen. In terms of working with teams, it really depends on the organization you'd be working in. Some of our graduates tend to work in teams of people, let's say with international development, that's very common. And that could be, by the way, just to give an example of what I mean by international development, it might be at the grassroots level. We have a course specifically on what do you do in a situation of where there's a conflict or a natural disaster. What do you do on the ground? What skills and knowledge do you need for people on the ground? And then there's the policy aspect. What at the political level, at the UN level, what do you need to know to best support people at the policy level? So some of those people tend to work, most of those people tend to work in teams. Some of them tend to work in offices, writing reports or doing analysis. So it really depends on the type of job you are interested in and what you get. The next topic somebody wanted to know about was mediation strategies and interreligious action for peace building. Interesting. So mediation strategies. We have a course in each semester. Some are required courses, some are electives on mediation, negotiation, facilitation. And absolutely in those courses, you would be learning about how to mediate, facilitate, negotiate. You yourselves are doing it. Those tend to be very skill-based courses. You are learning some theory, but the majority of the course time is on your feet, mediating between you and the class. In terms of interreligious action for peace building, if anyone's interested specifically in that, I don't know who asked the question. In the Jewish aspects of, or Jewish approaches to conflict resolution, Rabbi Daniel Roth teaches that he works with a series of organizations. He's the director of a major organization that deals with Muslim-Jewish peace building between he talks much more about this, and a lot of this is supposed to be not very public, but he dialogues between major players in the Middle East, leave it at that, who are very much at war, and he dialogues with them from interreligious standpoint of trying to create situations or opportunities where there might be peace building in some way, maybe not at the state level, but at least between people in some way. And that is taught very, very much. Those are, yes, that you would have to hear in the classroom, because some of it, he actually has to turn off the recording. For example, during when we were doing Zoom this past semester, he had to turn off the recording because he's not allowed to speak about some of these things. Can finance majors also apply for this program? Yes, absolutely. We do not have a requirement for what undergraduate degree you have. You have to have an undergraduate degree, a full BA. However, we understand that people come from a variety of varied educational background, and we train you in how to understand conflict resolution from a social science perspective. So absolutely, any degree is acceptable. Next question. If anyone has any questions, by the way, about anything I say, feel free to interrupt. It's fine. I'm just going through this because there's a lot of questions. So, okay. Why is the world silent about the crisis going on in Yemen and Myanmar? Great question. I don't know. I would like to know that too. I would assume it's fatigue. But you could ask Stephen Klein, who teaches political approaches to conflict. He is an editor at Haaretz newspaper. He would probably have an excellent answer for that. I wish I did. I am not a political analyst and have difficulty answering those kind of questions. So what is the timeline of the curriculum, and to what extent can internships and jobs be explored during the program? Good, because I like to speak about that. This is a very intensive program. I have to warn you people. So some of you I've spoken to, and I've warned you. This is very intensive. And every year, this is what was about a month ago, the time of year when it was the toughest. And our students again came to me and said, wow, this is a lot. And I say, yes, we realize it, we know, but you get a lot out of it. So in the first semester, which starts in October, you have classes every week, one of each of the classes each week. And it's over 4 days a week. So Monday to Thursday, plus Sundays. We have class trips, sometimes makeup classes. That goes until January. In January, you have a month to write your final assignments. We don't really have an exam period. We have assignment period. We try to cut out all the exams because assignments work better. You have a month to write the assignments. You have 7 assignments to write. It's a lot. And then the next day you start the mediation workshop. and that's 6 hours a day learning how to mediate. Then you have the next day, after you finish that, after 2 weeks, you start the second semester. There's no real break. Now, some people who are really great at time planning, at work planning, will work on their final assignments starting in November. They will harass their lecturers, and we strongly encourage you to do this, to say, what do I need to do for my final assignments? Because our lecturers always think that they're the only lecturer in the program, and they forget to tell you things. You need to ask them and start your assignments early. And there's always some students who take 2 weeks off during the assignment writing period. And they, well, not this year, but in a normal year, you would go somewhere if you can. So you could have a vacation, but be aware, it's a lot of work. Second semester is electives. You have not as full a schedule as you would in the first semester. Plus you get a break of 2 weeks for Passover, which is terrific. And there's no assignments during that time. So that is an actual break that's coming up for us in 2 weeks. Plus, because you have less credit requirements, students tend to take an internship at that point. We strongly recommend you can do an internship starting in the first semester, but because you have a lot of work, I would recommend putting that either on a low flame or starting in the second semester with an internship, because you have a lot in the first semester. So second semester, excellent time for internships. Some people do it as part of the practicum course. So you need to do 120 hours, which is about a full day a week for the semester in an internship. Others decide that they don't want to be limited to the internships that we can provide, and they do an internship on their own. Others decide to do an internship, which is not full-time for that reason. They decide either they find an organization where they can do 3 hours a week in the first semester and maybe increase it a bit in the second. It's really up to you. We just help find organizations. And if you're having trouble communicating with them, because sometimes if any of you know Israeli society, people don't get back to you very easily. You have to email them a couple of times before they notice their emails. We help facilitate that. But really, it's between you and the organization, and it's very the plus side of Israeli society. On the negative side, you sometimes have to really work to get people's attention in this country. The other side is they'll say, "Oh, great, start tomorrow." Things are not planned out 3 months ahead. It is very, very last minute, which can be frustrating. But you always, from my experience, I've been doing internship placements for years. You always find a place in something very interesting. And it might not be exactly what you thought it would be or start when you thought it would be, but it'll happen very quickly. So definite possibility for anybody who's interested in working in the field. And strongly encourage. You're a little limited, I would say, working in Israel because you don't speak Hebrew or Arabic. If anyone does speak Arabic or Hebrew, that's amazing, because that's very helpful. You're a bit more limited than somebody who's Israeli or Arabic speaking. But you can definitely find something to do in an internship. So, any other questions before I go on to a different subject? You guys are quiet. Okay.
Oh, I actually do have a question.
Okay.
I have two. So the first one, what specific skills are going to be taught in the mediation workshop? Or not skills, but like what is actually learned?
I can send you information after. I'm just trying to think, because I've never taken the course myself, because there's a whole team that comes, and I feel like I sometimes I sit in on classes just for fun, and I don't, just because I don't want to overwhelm everybody because there's too many people. I know that, okay, this I do know. Because I've looked over the curriculum. I know you start off mediating, being a mediator, understanding the difference between mediation and negotiations. You mediate between person to person, one issue, and then person to person, multiple issues, and then person to group, multiple groups, and you build up as you go along. The idea is to get a spectrum of what a mediator would do. You're not going to be trained as a mediator. You're not coming out of it, although you get a certificate in mediation, you're not an official mediator. I have to stress that, because most places in the world will not, you have to train at the local level. So for example, if in your state, what state do you live in, Lily?
I live in New York.
I don't know there, but I know, let's say North Carolina for sure, because we have a graduate there. She had to do another training with the legal system in North Carolina after, because you need to know the local laws, policies. And the only people who are allowed to do that training course are lawyers, doctors, and people with a conflict resolution and mediation degree. And the certificate did help her get into that course. So, so it does have meaning in that sense. But you're not going to come out as a mediator. It gives you a taste and specific skills on how to mediate. That's the idea. Then if you want to go on to become a professional mediator or to include mediation in what you do in the future, there are other courses for that. A little bit in our program, but mainly you should do it locally.
Okay, and then my second question is, so I know that the electives are the second semester, you said,
Yes.
after the mediation workshop. So what does that look like? From what departments can you choose electives, and how, like, what are some examples of things that people include in the curriculum, and how can you tailor them to like what you're specifically interested in exploring within conflict resolution?
Okay. So every year there are a bunch, as David pointed out, a bunch of international programs, meaning taught in English. That's what I mean by an international program, because most of the students and most of the courses at Tel Aviv University are in Hebrew, obviously. But there's a lot of English courses. We share courses for all through the year, which means we say we open it up to students to take as electives from other programs. So we get the MBA program often shares, environmental program shares, cybersecurity has been sharing. It's new, so they're sharing. Who else? Diplomacy, security and diplomacy. Who else do we have? That might be it. Oh, and EMPH, emergency preparedness. They're also sharing. If we know you have a specific interest. Oh, and the legal program. There is a LLM program as well. If we know you have a very specific interest, we try to schmooze other programs because they do it with us as well. And let's say in the MBA program, there's a course that Lily is very interested in. We try to request special permission to get you in. Doesn't always work because sometimes each program is thinking about its own students, obviously. So if there are already 80 students in a course, it's usually not the case. But if there are, so for example, in our first semester courses, we don't allow students from other programs generally to take them. On specific cases, we will. So if somebody has, let's say, a mediation background, and they really will contribute in the class, then we see it as a plus for you guys as well. So we do that similarly for you. So if is there a specific subject you're interested in, or you're just asking in general?
Yeah, I'm interested in how like music can be used to bring populations together, and art. And so I was thinking like of exploring those through a psychology lens, like the psychology of music, and then tying that to conflict. That's highly specific, but that is
very specific. There's a music program, but it's in Hebrew. But I don't think they do psychology of music. I don't know. They're actually next door to us. So I hear their music all the time. There's a film school which is in English, so we could check with them. And there's a psychology department which is in Hebrew. If they will have an English course, which they might, we can check that out. So that's something we sit with you. I encourage at the beginning of the program, anyone who has a very specific interest like that, just sit with us and we will, with you, research what's available and what can be done about that. So that's definitely an option. And we've done that for people, absolutely. Other questions? Okay. Let me just go through. I don't want to keep you guys too long.
Question.
Go ahead.
If someone wants to live and stay and work there in Israel, it is easy to find a job according to the program.
It is not easy, unfortunately, because there are they will hire Israelis. You have to be an Israeli citizen mainly, not only, but generally. That's true. There have been a few exceptions of people who, first of all, internships are easy. People have stayed an extra year and have done internships, but they're not paid. That's the problem. So we have a lot of students who stay an extra year and they intern for a year in some organization, or they went to live outside of Tel Aviv in a Palestinian area, an Israeli Jewish area, a religious Jewish area, and work with different communities. So that's that's an option. But getting a job, we had one student who got a job who was not Israeli, and I'm not really sure how she did it, at the Shimon Peres Center doing piecework. I don't really know how she did that, but she was able to somehow. So I know it's possible, but it's not very common. And I don't want to give you guys, a hope that it's very easy to get a job in Israel. For Israelis, it's not very easy to get a job in Israel. So it's not specifically about you not being Israeli, but that's the legal reason.
Sorry, I have a question.
Sure. For who's speaking?
Yeah, Zimi.
Oh, hey, Zimi.
Yeah, so will the program offer students internship opportunities, or we need to go find by ourselves?
So it's a mix. In the practicum course, we offer you a series of organizations that we've worked with, and you decide based on that what works best for you. And you have an interview with the organization. So it really is, it depends on if it's right for you and if it's right for them. So it has to be a good match. But when I say it's a mix, we strongly encourage our students to look for their own internships, because we think we know what your interests are, but really you know what your interests are. And sometimes students find much more interesting placements that we had no idea existed. Israel is a very interesting place, that there are so many organizations that I found out about who are next door to us that I had no idea existed, because they pop in and out of existence all the time, and they do some incredibly interesting work, and people just find them randomly or through word of mouth. So I strongly encourage everyone to look on your own as well when you're here, and consult with us. And if you're having trouble, we help you out. Some places we have some great contacts at. We have either former students who work there, or people have interned before, or we just happen to know I have friends who work in places. That's another one that comes up a lot. Friends who run NGOs. And it's often through word of mouth of knowing people that people get an internship. But I always encourage people to look for their own as well.
Right, and also we don't need to have a working visa to do the
An
internship.
internship? No, not at all.
Right.
No, unfortunately they're not paid in any way. So that's what I've been trying to always negotiate that, even for travel expenses, taking the bus or something, and it always turns out into too many legal issues. So it's generally not allowed.
All right, got it. Thanks.
Okay, other questions?
Yeah, I have a quick one about when you were talking about job placement. So were you saying that's for people who are not citizens? It's very hard to get a job. So because I'm considering doing citizenship before I get there, and would that help me, or just the fact that I'm an American, regardless if I'm a citizen or not? It's gonna be different.
In that sense? No, it's a legal issue. To get a job in most cases, you have a work permit to pay you. And they might have the best of intentions and saying Lily is terrific or Zimi is terrific and we like him. We want to hire him. This has happened to me, by the way, often when I wasn't a citizen. And then they find out legally they're not allowed. There are insurance issues, there are legal issues. So yes, if you can become a citizen, then yes, do that. Anything else about that? Okay.
Very quiet.
Yeah. David, you say something?
I just said it's very quiet. No more questions.
Okay.
Everyone's been very quiet.
I'll quickly speak to the other major questions, the big ones. Okay, safety in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is very safe, very safe. That's one of the things everyone's always surprised at. I would say Israel and Palestine are very safe. Someone just asked me, because I do a lot in my personal life around the conflict, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and somebody asked me if I've ever seen violence. And in my 20-something years, I've never actually seen violence. It happens. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it's not something you would notice, especially here on the coast. It's really not something that is part of daily life. The biggest thing we had in the last 6 years that I was with students is there was a missile shot from Gaza, and it hit south of Tel Aviv, somewhere in a field. And so there were air raid sirens, and we were all very, very nervous, of course. And then it went away, and that was it. That was I think the most, the scariest thing that happened. And by the way, there are plans for exactly what to do, and people tell you exactly what to do, but there's been nobody hurt in any of these in many, many, many years. So violence and security, violence in terms of the conflict is really not an issue. And security in terms of crime, for example, is really not a big issue. There is crime. It's generally your bike gets stolen, or your cell phone if you're sitting in a cafe. That's pretty common. But I can't really think of any other crime, including women walking around in not great neighborhoods. It's not really a big thing here. It's very safe. It's very, very safe.
I can vouch for that as well. I've lived here 9 years, and before that I lived in London and I got robbed twice there. But we're here in Tel Aviv, you feel very safe. You can walk around at night on your own. Your personal safety and security I've had no problems here at all, especially in Tel Aviv.
Yeah. And I'd say that's true pretty much everywhere. I don't know any really dangerous area that I would say don't go there. The next question, COVID-19. How are you dealing with COVID? Is that it? Yes, restrictions. Okay, so this is up and down. It's like a roller coaster. So let me back up to when all this started. We were sure that in October we would be doing hybrid teaching. So we'd have some students in the class up to a certain amount were allowed, and then others on Zoom. And then the rates were going up quickly, so we went to Zoom, unfortunately. But what we did do is we got permission, international programs specifically got permission, allowing outdoor teaching. So some of our courses, not all of them, because not all our lecturers were able to do this, taught outside. We did all our trips because we planned them at times when the rates were low. And even if we planned a trip at a certain time, the rates were high, we just delayed it and then we had our trip. So we did all our trips. We couldn't do an overnight, which we normally do at the beginning of the program. But we did a bunch of trips to the Gaza region. We went to Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, to see the wall, the barrier. We went to Tel Aviv. We did a few. In Tel Aviv, it was easy because you could just walk and take a bus. It was easy. You do it with masks. It was all great. It all turned out great. Now we're all vaccinated. All our students are vaccinated, fully vaccinated. I worked on that very, very hard, making sure they would get, as soon as their age category came up, that they would all be vaccinated. We now have permission to go back to the classroom up to a certain amount. It's up to 20. That's going to be extended, I just read on the news, because our rates are going lower and lower. So we'll be back in the classroom in a hybrid way, meaning this semester I'm talking about, this coming semester, meaning that we still have 2 students who didn't get to Israel because the airports was shut down. So they're still on Zoom, and there's 1 or 2 students who are a little nervous, even though they're vaccinated, to be in a classroom. So legitimate, not a problem. They can be on Zoom, and the majority of people are in the classroom. So we've been doing that. And after Passover, is in about 3 weeks, we'll be fully in the classroom as much as possible. So that's not an issue. We hope that next year, so October, it'll be similar. We'll either be fully in the classroom, or if people can't get into the country because of some sort of COVID restriction, then we'll be on Zoom as well. I'm assuming, but the university hasn't made any decision yet because nobody knows what's happening in the next 3 weeks. It's very hard to plan for October. But we have we have backup plans to our backup plans, meaning whatever the situation is by law, let's say we're allowed 10 people in a room or 20 people in a room or we're not allowed anyone in a room, so we'll teach outside, or we'll teach through Zoom, or we'll teach. The program will go on exactly as it was. We will adapt, and we'll make it as we did this year, which was the hardest part. This was the hardest year, I'm sure. The best experience possible. Our students were amazing this year because they came into the situation understanding all the restrictions. They would have to wear masks, and they might not be able to get together all the time. So we adapted. We got together in parks. We got together on the lawn outside. At Tel Aviv International, there's a building with a big veranda. We did that, and we adapted. It was all great. We couldn't do the PowerPoint presentation in the same way outside, but great. Everyone's on their phone. They can watch it that way. Most of our lecturers adapted very well to this. And even our mediation workshop, which had to be done entirely through Zoom because our team is outside of Israel. They're in, where are they? Let's see, England, Jordan, US, a few other countries. And we couldn't get them into Israel, so we had to do it on Zoom, and they got great reviews. People said it worked very, very well, even considering it was on Zoom, and they were tired of Zoom at this point. So no matter what happens with COVID, we will adapt and provide the best experience possible for you guys, which even in Tel Aviv is pretty easy to do. If we can't do trips to the Golan Heights because we can't do an overnight, well, we'll do trips to Jaffa and do a tour of Jaffa from a Palestinian and Israeli perspective. Those are the types of things we do. Any other questions?
Yeah, maybe I could address another question. How high are the chances that international students can actually enter Israel? Or is there like a discussion going on between the education system, the university, and the government?
How high are the what? Sorry, I couldn't hear the word.
How high are the chances that international student can enter Israel?
It's very high. I'm not worried about that. The issue is if, for example, in September, suddenly there is a new strain. I'm just thinking out loud. That suddenly Israel decides they have to shut down airspace and they won't let anyone in, which is what happened a few months ago. Israelis were stuck outside. So it had nothing to do with international students. So from the beginning of COVID, the university got permission for students to come into the country. That wasn't the issue. And most of them, almost all of them got in. There was a few who had issues with visas. We have a guy in Iraq. That was the major reason. He's in Iraq, so that's more complicated. And someone else who couldn't come at the time. So she decided to be on Zoom. And then our airport was shut down. So we hope that's not going to be the case. Now, what happens, for example, for people who are vaccinated or not vaccinated, that part I don't know. But we had this year, nobody was vaccinated coming into the program. You had to do quarantine for 2 weeks. I'm assuming it'll be something like that. There'll be very explicit rules about somebody who's coming in who's either vaccinated or not vaccinated, what they need to do. But the university, Tel Aviv International, adapts very, very quickly and very well to this, to exactly what's going on. So I'm not worried about that. It may not work out the exact date that we plan. We always ask for flexibility. When we tell you to come, for example, September, whatever, I don't know what the date is, and then it turns out it's a week later or a week earlier, we ask for a little flexibility because COVID is unpredictable, but everyone makes it work. It's a very flexible culture in that sense. So.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions about COVID and how we've dealt with it, or I don't know, anything else like that related?
Also to say, Ria, we do on our website at TAU International, we do have a COVID page with lots of FAQs that we constantly update whenever we get updates from the Ministry of Health and the government. So do always check there as well. Yep. Regularly.
But in this situation, it's so difficult to know. I'm assuming that over the summer, things are just going to get better across the world for most people. But
fingers crossed. I think in Israel as well, we're opening up back up.
Yeah, we opened up.
So we're kind of, life is getting back to normal for us here.
Yeah. Knock on,
knock on wood.
But our restaurants just opened, bars are opening. They say clubs will open soon. and our rates are going down. So yeah, let's hope the vaccines really did solve this. I'm optimistic for the first time in a year. So, and I always think the sky is falling. Okay, let's see, anything else? How to determine the different conflict resolution methods of blueprints. That's it, because the other ones are very similar questions. Curriculum, graduate career opportunities I spoke to. There's a question from who, I don't really understand this. Sorry, Anne, are you on? How to determine the suitability of different conflict resolution methods. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Is Anne still here? Yes. Anne, are you here?
She's here, yes.
Okay. I'm not sure what she means. I'm not sure what you mean by suitability. In each course, the lecturers often give a theory, how it's used in practice, and the pros and cons of using that. So, and that's something that comes up. So I'm thinking of, let's say, the Jewish and Islamic perspectives. So people will often adapt the thinking, looking through a religious lens at their own religion, for example, or their own culture in their country, and it may or may not fit. So that's something you, in an interaction with your lecturers, you would bring up. You might say, what just happened, I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, I can think of an okay example. We had a lot of students from China who would ask about, okay, how do I apply that to something within Chinese culture? And so the lecturer might ask, hey, explain to me exactly what you mean in Chinese culture. And then they would outline what would work in that situation. But a lot of it is to understand that even you think you understand a religion, even if you're part of that religion, if you're Jewish or Muslim, often how it's interpreted here might be slightly different. And that has to be understood as well. So that is explained through the lecture. That's through asking them questions. Our lecturers are very, very open to, oh, I should explain this for Europeans. Sorry, this comes up a lot. Our lecturers have a very American style, American/Israeli style, and American is very open. This is what I mean by American style. You can ask questions, you can interact. It's not very hierarchical. And Israelis are even more so, where sometimes you argue with your professors. And I've seen when Israelis are in our class or Palestinians are in our class, there'll be arguments over something. And students who come from Europe are often very surprised by this, and also the Asian countries, very surprised by this. It's part of the culture. It's a way of learning, and it is considered a healthy way of learning because you get to explain your side and test your theories and ideas. And get some pushback from either the lecturer or the lecturers get pushback from the students. That is very common. As long as it's done respectfully, it's all okay. So, and I know this, we had students from Spain, Germany, a few other cultures, I'm trying to remember who told me this, who were a little bit surprised by this because they had attended universities where you were expected to be very, just listen and absorb and regurgitate. And that doesn't tend to be the style of most of our lecturers. They are kind of, they don't even understand that style very much. So they actually often want somebody to ask questions, to push back. So I'm thinking mostly about Islamic perspectives. Mustafa, who teaches it, is very much loves when people challenge him, loves it. So it's really part of, and it's very interesting, mostly if you plan to do something in interreligious dialogue, to understand how these things are viewed and to test out assumptions. So that's it for the questions. Do you guys have any more questions? Okay. Well, I'm always here. In terms of, sorry, I'll just share one more thing quickly, which I said I thought I would talk to, but I'll just speak to very quickly. Sort of the technicalities. Oh, this is wrong. Oh, I got to change this. Okay. Okay. So application requirements. First of all, this is all on our website. For those who aren't fluent English speakers, meaning you didn't study, either you didn't grow up in an English culture or you live in an English speaking country, or studied in a BA, which is fully in English. You need a TOEFL and IELTS, or what's the other one that we're now accepting? Cambridge and blanking on its name. There's an online one, but all this, sorry?
Is it Duolingo?
Duolingo, yes.
Duolingo.
Those are still allowed. All our application requirements are there, but those are the two major ones. We need your transcripts and the English requirements. That's the big thing. Our application deadline, mainly, I would say the deadline is July 31st because we need to plan for the next year. So that's when we need to know who's coming, who's not. So that I usually give as the deadline. Because this is a weird year, you know, that's probably as far as we can go. I understand not everyone knows what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen exactly as I talked about, but we need to know what to plan for. If you need if you want to live in the dorms, then the application, or sorry, the confirmation deadline is May 31st, which means you have to have applied, been accepted, and confirmed by May 31st. That may be extended, but may not. For now, it's May 31st. So if that's an issue, you can speak to me offline, that's fine. We can work something out. That's about it. Other than that, the cost is there. We have scholarships. You can go on our website to see what those are. And we are for Americans. We're part of FAFSA, student loans as well. That's it. That's all I can think of telling you that are the important things.
Can I just say one thing, Corey? I don't know if everybody knows that the MFA, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, have a scholarship, a new scholarship that they brought back after a couple of years been on hiatus. And the deadline is this Friday, the 19th of March.
Yes,
They literally
you
just
can apply for even if you haven't been accepted yet, but do the acceptance quickly. Unfortunately, it doesn't apply for Americans. I know there's a few Americans here. It's not, Americans are not part of it. I wish they were, but it's a great scholarship. And in past years, we've had a few students each year who applied through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and got a good scholarship. I don't know what it is exactly, but it was about $4,000, $5,000?
5,000, yeah.
Something like that. It was pretty good. So, and it's a lot of European and non-European countries are in there. So
I can put a link here in the chat to the.
It's on our website as well. This is under.
Oh, you have it on yours as well. Okay.
If you go on our website and you look under scholarships, it's there. Cool. So, oh yeah, and I'll put our website, which is easy to find, but just in case. Most of you have been there, but just in case. That's it.
Amazing.
Okay, if anyone else has any questions, feel free to email me. And if need, we can Zoom. I'm fine with that. So.
Amazing.
Okay, great. So everyone have a good day and evening for some of you. I know some of you are in evening places, and the rest of you have a good day.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Corey. And thank you to everyone, and thank you for listening to me at the beginning as well. So I hope it was a great informative webinar for you all.
Great. Take care, everybody.
Cool. Thanks, Corey. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.